Oh, shit. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well,
whew.
Here we are at our new time.
Which I didn't tell anyone about, so sorry, guys.
Yeah, so everyone's going to be on the replay crew this week, which is totally fine. We have been traveling because, I keep saying as though it's our job, because it is our job.
It's literally our job, yeah.
As we increase our travel kind of very quickly after the lockdowns, to be honest, some of our administration stuff is getting, we're coming up with new systems to make sure everything is okay. And one of those balls that got dropped was changing the time on the advertisement because we had already changed the time in our calendars. So we want to apologize to everyone who was like, what the heck? Why'd you change the time? Really simple. We wanted to see if this time works better for other folks. So if you prefer it at 3:00 Eastern on a Tuesday, let us know. This is 1:00 Eastern on a Tuesday. We're happy to move it around and figure out when is best for our people to show up live as they can. So please let us know. If you are always on the replay crew because you live in Malawi, then we understand. And that's...
It doesn't...
we get it.
We'll see you when we see you.
We'll see you when we see you. So, but we have a lot to talk about today, and a lot of both like happy things, and then also we're going to hold some space for some grief as well. So with that in mind, let's get started. Fantastic.
Okay.
Here we are.
Go back at our new time that we told no one about. Apologies. That was my mess, everybody. I'm the one who schedules these things. And didn't realize it until we were already in Charleston this weekend.
Here we go. So before we get into explaining our topic a little bit more, let's jump into some empathy exercises. So the first one is mine, which is that Brittney Griner, the athlete, the Women's National Basketball Association athlete who is currently imprisoned in Russia for having a vape pen, will get her full salary this year because she obviously will not be able to play, regardless if she is freed. During the season, she has been out of training, obviously, for a while. She's been in prison for almost a month now, if not over that. I've lost track of time. What is time?
I think it was February, but I could be totally wrong.
Oh, no, it's February. So she's been in prison for almost 4 months.
Yeah.
It's a real issue. Thankfully, about a little while ago, the Biden administration seemed to clock on to the fact that there was an American citizen potentially wrongly imprisoned in Russia, and maybe is helping try to get her home, but have not heard nearly as much as I would like to be completely honest, about what is happening. Supposedly, the Russian authorities say that she was carrying a vape pen that had oil derived from cannabis, which is a 10-year prison sentence. Nuts. Her hearing in Russia is set for next week, according to this NBC Sports article. But there will also be a floor decal in all WNBA games so that awareness of Brittney's case can be brought up. I've heard some other WNBA players say that this is both terrible for Brittney and a cautionary tale for WNBA stars, many of whom play in their offseason in Russia or for teams that play in Russia. So this is something the WNBA needs to take very seriously.
For sure.
So another empathy update. This one's a lot happier.
Yeah. So this came to my Twitter feed literally last night, and immediately shared it with Dr. Kristen. We are delighted to see that what was predicted to be kind of a domino effect after the Metropolitan Museum of Art removed the Sackler name from their wings and premises some number of months ago. A lot of people predicted that that was going to be the first domino, and we've seen a couple galleries in London follow suit. And last night we got word that in the last week, both the Guggenheim and London's National Gallery are the latest to remove the Sackler name from their premises and from the names of their foundations. So some of the key facts that Forbes was helpful to provide, the National Gallery staff painted over the family's name last week. And the Guggenheim also renamed its Center for Arts Education, which previously bore the name of the family. And they did this. They agreed. Like, apparently the Sacklers said, yeah, it's okay, and agreed, in quote unquote, a decision that was in the best interest of the museum, at which point I would just like to say, screw you, Guggenheim. That's my inarticulate way of saying it's in the best interest of humanity, really, not just the museum. It's just the right thing to do. So the British Museum, the Tate Galleries, and the Met and the Louvre all have removed as well. So really exciting news for us, and for especially all of the activists who specifically staged protests at a lot of these American-based museums, including the Guggenheim, going back 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was 2018 was the first protest in the Guggenheim. So shout out to those activists and people working tirelessly to get these names removed. So long may it continue and go forth.
Amen. So now we're on to some brand new empathy exercises, and Dr. Erin is up first.
Yes, this is a hockey one. Jay, when you watch this later, you'll be excited by it. I chose this one. The NHL has a whole playlist, literally, of all their stuff for Asian American and Pacific Islander Awareness Month, which I have now learned, according to the United States government, is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Month. Whoo, okay. But this is a great story of the Kraken head video analyst Tim Ohashi, and how he is embracing being an Asian person who loves hockey, and representing his heritage in the rooms. He was inspired, he says, by Paul Kariya and Stan Wong, who made their mark in the NHL. Paul Kariya was the longtime captain of the Anaheim Ducks, and just an absolutely fantastic hockey player. But it's a great story about Ohashi and his love of hockey, and how he is continuing to promote Asian folks in the hockey world. So please read the story of Tim, and read all the other stories, because they're actually really good. And I was like, I can't do 85 empathy exercises about Asian folks who love hockey. The NHL has done the work for you. Just click the link and read away. All right, now I have 2 empathy exercises from my hometown of Pittsburgh. Delighted. This one is actually really great news. In light of what was really horrible news. They announced last week that the redesign of the Tree of Life, which for any of you who aren't aware, was the site of a mass shooting on October 27th, 2018, when a gunman walked in and killed 11 worshipers from the Tree of Life and 2 other congregations, Dor Hadash and New Light, who all shared the building. This is like 5 minutes from my house. I drive past Tree of Life all the time. So it has sat vacant. Obviously, those congregations no longer practice there. But we have now a new vision for what this place is going to look like. We got acclaimed architect Daniel Libeskind to design this, which is going to be awesome. But the path forward imagines a future without anti-Semitism. So it's going to create a local institution dedicated to ending anti-Semitism. It's going to have a place for worship for those congregations as well. But it's going to, look at the interior of this. It's going to be phenomenal. And Daniel Libeskind says down at the bottom, my response to the attack is to create a space imbued with Jewish ideals. but also provide a place for education and hope moving forward. So I can't wait for this to happen. I can't wait to have this kind of place in my hometown. And I think it's such a wonderful legacy to continue on the beautiful work that was being done on that site in that building, and that continues to be done by those congregations in their time in Pittsburgh. So excited for this. We've all been wondering and hoping what was going to happen next for Tree of Life. So,
and if you've never really thought about anti-Semitism in the United States or in North America, we have a Welcome to My World with Sophie Hirscher from early on in 2021. Sophie was a congregant at the synagogue that used to be the site of the largest anti-Semitic attack in the United States in Sacramento, California, before Tree of Life. So she has quite a lot of, and works now for a lot of Reformed Jewish organizations. So if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I don't really know a lot, or was this just a one-off? It's not. It's absolutely not. Third highest number of terrorist attacks against them are the Jewish people in the United States. So if you want to know that, look up that video.
I'm going to find the link right now is what I'm going to do.
Amazing. It's one of, and then also if you're ever in Philadelphia, and we'll do a tour of this sometime soon, there is the Jewish American History Museum here in Philly, which is the only space in the United States dedicated to the Jewish people that does not contain the Holocaust or anti-Semitism at all. So we're very excited to have that here in Philly. And the Good Doctors will be featuring that on their channel as we continue to go out into the world post the lockdown. So yeah.
Okay, next up on our Tour de Force Pittsburgh empathy exercises. For those of you who don't know, the language app Duolingo is based in Pittsburgh. I get notifications all the time that they're hiring. But I saw this last week and I thought it was fantastic. They're opening a taco joint where you can practice your Spanish in East Liberty, which I think is a phenomenal way to take what you're doing with Duolingo and then have actual practical places to practice that. So it is going to be Duo's Taqueria, which will open at the end of June. And if you are a part of the Espanol challenge, then you get a discount at the taqueria. So tacos, practicing Spanish, empathy, all a go-go from Duolingo. So excited to see that. And I'm not planning on extending my Spanish language skills, but I might for discounted tacos. Who knows?
Well, I actually just started Duolingo Spanish again after working with our my incredible colleague Blair Quirness in Honduras, who runs an Urban Promise in Latin America. And he challenged me. He's like, "You're a wonderful speaker in English. I bet you'd be a wonderful speaker in Spanish." And I was like, "Gauntlet thrown, Blair." So I re-downloaded Duolingo myself, and I'm brushing up on my grammatically correct Spanish and not just the slang that's spoken around the factory. So.
Hey, there you go, girl. Next time you come, you can get us tacos.
I will, and I will order it. That will be my challenge to myself. I will order for us entirely in Spanish.
En español.
All right, now it's on to me. Speaking of new things, one of the new things that is happening is that for the very first time, we have a Black woman serving as the White House press secretary. What I really appreciate is that there is a video here, and the screenshot does not include a picture of the woman. Poor tech on that.
Jean-Pierre. Come on, NBC.
So this is Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm not going to click the video. The NBC website is so annoying. But she was the chief of staff for Kamala Harris in the 2020 campaign and has worked for MoveOn.org and worked on both of President Obama's election campaigns. In other words, her pedigree is strong. Mm-hmm. I also watched this coming back, and Jen Psaki is going to be a commentator on, I think, CNN or MSNBC, one of the two. And I'm thrilled to death with this replacement. Her poise is wonderful. She's got a great rapport with the press. Yeah. Really, really excited to be able to have, I always love seeing professional communicators as the press secretaries. We took a hiatus from that for a couple years, and now we're back, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, and she is not only the first Black press secretary, she's also the first openly gay one. So
she is.
she's hitting a couple intersections there, Karine. But we're excited to have, yes, she's an excellent communicator, regardless of whether you agree with her politically. So again, excited that Jen Psaki has passed the torch from one excellent communicator to another.
And torch passing is a theme of our next one here. We're going as the doctor from Jodie Whittaker to Ncuti Gatwa, who, if you watch the Netflix show Sex Education, you will know him as one of the actors on there. He will now be the 14th,
I think is what they're saying.
Doctor on the show Doctor Who. And will be the first Black person of color at all to play this role. Jodie Whittaker was the first non-white male, and Ncuti now follows her footsteps. For anyone confused as to how this is possible, part of the lore of Doctor Who is that the Doctor, is an alien who routinely regenerates into new bodies. And this is how we've had 13 doctors previous. For my money, the best one is 10, which is David Tennant. He was my absolute and will probably remain my doctor. Even I love Jodie's portrayal, and I'm sure I'll love Ncuti's, but like David Tennant just has this, like, some of my favorite episodes of television are when Doctor Who was in the 10th. He's also one of the youngest doctors. It's him and Matt Smith are pretty much the babies. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited for this energy.
100%.
Really excited. Because one of the things that we know that's really important is when you show people the breadth of humanity, people expand their own humanity to come alongside of it. And that is one of the driving forces behind the coffee chain Biddy and Beau's, which was founded in Charleston, South Carolina. And we went to its headquarters this weekend for the first time. We're delighted by the vibe inside. We both had iced chais. They were delicious.
So good.
Essentially, they intentionally hire folks with disabilities to work in their coffee shop. It's really what it comes down to. There are lots of locations now. Here, I will pull this up. You can see all of these here.
Ooh, Colorado, Boulder. Of course, Boulder.
But there's one in Pittsburgh.
Where?
Coming soon.
Oh, yay. Oh, that's so exciting.
Yay for Pittsburgh.
I can buy more merch.
So if you are in the United States and you see any of your cities up here, we've got Jacksonville, Florida, Washington, D.C., Boston, Massachusetts, a couple in Georgia, a couple South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, North Carolina. All of these are wonderful places. Wilmington, you should let your family know when they're at the beach house.
I know. I saw that.
Really, really lovely place. And we look forward to continuing to frequent it and wear all their merch, which we
all of it
bought a lot of. So we'll just let me pull up here so you can all see these super cool t-shirts. This is the one that Dr. Aaron purchased.
I mean, how on brand is that for us? Radically inclusive. That's us. It's also Biddy and Beau's.
And then we also love this one right here, Not Broken. And I obtained the, I don't wear crew neck t-shirts for anyone who doesn't know. So I obtained a Not Broken coffee mug right here. So very, very exciting. We love supporting small business. It's one of our hobbies. And we love supporting small business in Charleston. We love exploring new places. We also went to a really delightful Irish pub after getting a really amazing photo shoot with a woman named Nicole who runs a company called InstaShoot. And my hair is not behaving today, so I'm going to be futzing with it. I will stop. I will attempt to stop.
That's okay. I was futzing with mine too, so we're all good. We literally had a travel day yesterday, so this is the first time we're at our desks. We're like, wow,
what is happening?
What is this?
And one of the reasons that we wanted to talk a little bit, finish those empathy exercises on joy, is that something that the last 2 years has taught both of us, and we're sure has taught a lot of you, is that we need to claim joy when we can. And we need to craft intentional spaces for rest and happiness and all those kind of other things, because the world is a perpetual dumpster fire. And if we try to lean on other people or lean on experiences to find joy and happiness and rest and fun, we will not. We have to create those or claim those, depending on what's going on. And because the truth is that the United States a little while ago passed 1 million deaths from COVID. This was not marked in any way, shape, or form. There was no ceremony. There was no mention. There was no official declaration. There was no reading of the names. This is an obscene amount of people more than 9/11. And yet on 9/11, every year we read all of the names of the people that were killed that day. So for any number of reasons that we will not get into today, the official United States response to 1 million lives lost to this pandemic has been business as usual.
Yeah, because I was talking about it with my mom. Do you remember when we lost, when we hit 100,000 and they printed all the names in the New York Times?
Yeah.
And like, there's a quote from the top of the article that we'll have in the downstairs here that says, it's an exponential number of other people that are walking around with a small hole in their heart.
The title for today's GDD comes from The West Wing. When in the second season, there was a shooting on the finale of season 1 is that the president was shot at. And we find out in spoiler alert for something that happened in 1999. We find
if you're planning on deep diving into the West Wing next year, sorry, not sorry.
We find out in the beginning of season 2 that the president came out of surgery just fine, but that Josh Lyman, his communications director, was very touch and go. And at one point, the president is standing looking at his surrogate child in a lot of ways, we are told, and set this up in the show. And somebody says, well, we know the bot, like, you know, they got the shooter. So like, he's the only one dead. So that's the body count. And President Bartlett says, we don't know the body count.
Mm-hmm.
And we started saying that really early, just between the two of us, almost not as a joke, but like as a cultural reference.
Right.
Early on in COVID, that every time they would say the number of deaths, I would just say, we don't know the body count.
We don't know the body count. Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know. And so we wanted to hold a little bit of space today to say, we don't know the body count. We've passed 1 million deaths. We're not tracking people with long COVID. We're not tracking children who lost their parents or grandparents. We're not tracking spouses that lost their partners. We're not tracking the emotional toll on first responders who were heroes for solid 6 months. And now we don't talk about them at all. We just continually celebrate being back together again, which is beautiful. But we're troubled by the lack of holding these two things in tension. And yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's why my cat is like, decided now is the time. Right now is the time. She needs to be hungry. But that's why, you know, the word, we talked about exponential growth so much at the start of the pandemic, and understanding case numbers and all of that stuff. And to use that phrase to talk about the number of people who have a hole in their heart from their experience, whether that be, you know, people who lost direct family members, people who were sick and have recovered. We do know that I did see last week that Senator Tim Kaine is proposing a bill to support people with long COVID. I keep reading articles about and hearing from people who have long COVID and like are, you know, all of their benefits have expired by now. They're no longer getting payment from the government. There's no way that their employer's health insurance, if they had it at all, was built to support somebody.
Employer here, Cobra doesn't last that long if you had to let somebody go.
Exactly. So we've left all these people in the lurch and in horrible emotional situations, financial situations. So it has gone exponentially. And, you know, right around the time we reached the 1 million mark on the 4th of May, at the same time, the World Health Organization, announced that according to estimates, we have reached 15 million around the world. And so then exponential from that, right? Like how all of us, in some way, are impacted by this and continue to be impacted by this. You and I are traveling a lot more now, and we talk about how many damn COVID tests we take because we're now getting like travel crud and all this kind of stuff, and we're like, oh, we don't want to expose other people. How much our lives have changed. I think about it every time I'm on a plane now. And the first second someone coughs, I'm like, oh God, I'm trapped in a plane with germs. But like, I always was trapped in a plane with germs before the COVID, and just that was life. So yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think February, I think it was our little best anniversary retreat. We talked about doing this for, which tells you, I think we were at 940,000 registered deaths in February. So, you know, people are still dying. Hundreds to 1,000 people are dying every day in this country from COVID. And you're right. We've effectively gone back to what, you know, whatever you say nothing. We don't talk about COVID anymore. And we wanted specifically to have this space to say that, you know, if you lost someone, if your life was dramatically altered, you lost your job, your partner lost their job, you have long COVID, your kid got sick, anything. We just wanted to have this space to say that, like, we see you and we know that it's really hard for lots of people for lots of different reasons. And it's still hard, whether or not we're talking about it nationally.
And if you're somebody who's like, well, I didn't suffer that bad. If you were coped up in your house for 18 months, you missed birthdays and religious holidays, you missed weddings, you missed vacations. We all were traumatized by this. And that's, again, why we don't know the body count. And we want you to know that there is no hierarchy of suffering. No one has won the COVID Olympics in who gets to claim that they had the worst life. Travel crud. It's abysmal and abominable. And our best hope for you is that you have found ways to cope and maybe even thrive. A couple days out of 10 is great. In a world where normal, when we pretend normal exists, it's like even dumber than before. Yeah. You know, in a certain way. And I just keep thinking, like, how many scientists tell us, like, we're going to get more of these. Like, that's just like how disease has evolved. Like, don't throw out any of your masks. You're going to need them in about 4 years. Like, this is just how this works now. This is one of the effects of climate change, is how superbugs kind of work and figure things out. This was unprecedented and a once in 100 year event. And maybe it will be again. Maybe these scientists are wrong. But I know that when I, as a scientist, say something, I'm usually not just making it up for funsies. I've got data. So if they've got data, then what I want to take from the last 3 years of our collective life is that I want to be intentional to create space to have fun. And I want to value what is really fun, what brings me joy, what brings me peace and rest, and all of the things that we pretend are disposable commodities. And I want to center my life around that. Because I was super lucky in a lot of ways emotionally. I was very used to having text-based communications with my friends. So not seeing people in person was hard, don't get me wrong. I hit a couple days where I was just like, if I can't hug Aaron soon, I might actually like vibrate out of my skin. But my life has led to a lot of friendships on the internet. Yeah. So I didn't feel lonely, really. I am an extrovert that still managed to be okay. And a lot of my fellow extroverts were not. And they were very clear about that. Our industry certainly was affected, but we were able to pivot. That's not the same for my friends who were wedding planners or people who were makeup artists, or people who owned pet care facilities for people that went on vacation. There was a lot, in some ways I was very lucky. But it would be a disservice to me to then say I wasn't affected by it.
Right.
And so if you identify with that, like, oh, it wasn't really that bad. Cool. You were on the lucky end of the level of disruption, but you were still disrupted.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to both take this time, to reflect on what lessons you learned about yourself over the last 3 years, or what you want your life to look like. As you said, you've kind of reframed some of your priorities, or decided to intentionally pursue other ones. And the other thing that this teaches us, that this whole horrible thing teaches us, is we have no idea what other people are carrying. We have no idea what's going on in their personal lives. When someone is, grumpy in the supermarket, or cuts you off in traffic, or just, you see someone who very clearly looks like they're not quite present as you pass them on the street. We do not know what people's stories are and what they are carrying in their lives. I think that is something we have learned throughout this pandemic and continue to learn, hopefully. So for us, that means we just have to dig deeper into empathy. We just have to dig deeper into trying to remember that about other people. Humans aren't great about processing trauma without the intervention, usually, of professionals. So a lot of people who don't think they're in trauma, who don't want to think they're in trauma, who hated everything about the last 3 years, are in trauma. And that's going to come out different ways in their bodies, in their minds, and how they express themselves, and how they interact with people, and how they go about their lives in the world. So we also wanted to take this time to just make that gentle reminder to be gentle with yourself, and as much as possible, be gentle with others, because we don't know what they're carrying. We don't know what they went through the last 3 years. And we don't know how they're processing it, or if they're processing it at all. And the only thing we can control is how we meet others with compassion and empathy, and try and set that model going forward into the world.
So our hope for you, as we conclude this space that we've held, is that whatever the last 3 years have looked like, you have found something about yourself that delightfully surprised you. We hope that you learned something about someone you love that was good. We hope that you found a hobby that now brings you rest and joy. We hope that you understand the world in a different and deeper way. We hope that you can practice non-judgment about yourself a little bit better, because it's okay if you didn't bake sourdough bread or learn a whole new language. Whatever this all looks like, our hope for you, and may you always remember that you are one piece of a communal puzzle that is often so far out of your control. And that's the way it works. You're not less of a human because you're human.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go forward from here too, the other thing I would say is, may you keep in mind that all of the statistics that you're going to hear for the next 10 years are COVID related, whether we say them or not. I just flashed across my phone that there was a 35% increase last year in gun-related deaths over 2020. That's a COVID situation.
Mm-hmm.
Domestic violence shelters and IPV experts, intimate partner violence experts, as Cheryl says, all over the world are flooded right now. Foster care is even more overwhelmed than it was.
Mm-hmm.
Children's menstruation is coming earlier due to stress. Division I athletes have had a major jump in death by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
All of these are COVID related, which also means that on the days you can't get out of bed, you're okay. On the days it just feels too much, it's because it is. On the days that you just can't, as best you can, don't. If other creatures are relying on you to stay alive, keep them alive, but lower those standards a little bit. Alive is good. We promise. This is not the time for the Pinterest mommy games.
Oh Lord, I hope the one thing this pandemic helps us to shift is this need to compete for versions of our lives that were never real to begin with and certainly aren't real now. Because the only way forward, right, is compassion and empathy and grace. That's the only way we get out of this, folks.
Yep. The only way forward is together. So we'll be with you for a while.
Yeah.
Forever. Who knows?
Including next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will actually be together in person. Erin will be in Philadelphia for some networking meetings. We're going to have breakfast that morning for an incredible man that Erin has brought into our lives from Northern Ireland and hang out with some other trusted mentors and colleagues throughout the week.
Yeah, man, we're chock-a-block with catch-ups with people. It's exciting.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And so real Dr. Kristen benediction here. May you always be surrounded by people who find you to be enough and never need you to be more. When somebody tells you that you're too much, that you are with people who like it just as it is. That you are with people who let you say COVID's exhausting. That you are loved by people who know how to feed your heart and your soul and your belly when you don't know how to do any of those things. And may you always remember that you are a human being, not a human doing. And you deserve to sleep.
We all do. So we will see you all next week at 1 p.m. Eastern. We do not know what we're talking about yet, but as soon as we do, I promise I'll schedule it and you'll see the socials with the appropriate time. And we hope if we don't see you before then on any of our other YouTube-y things, that we will see you guys then. Take care. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.